Welcome to the Abundance Code, the podcast where we delve into the secrets of unlocking abundance in mind, money, and meaning. I'm your host, Jason Stanley. Welcome back to the Abundance Code, where we discuss mind, money, and meaning. I'm Jason Stanley. Today, I have a special guest with me, Schiff. Steven, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know you've got a background. You were with P&G for a while and that kind of stuff. Steven also teaches the entrepreneur class here at the high school, local high school, and we do some work together on that. But I'd like to hear about your past.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity. My past is very different for probably a lot of normal people. I started out as a teacher. Mm-hmm. I taught special education for 6 years at the elementary level, and decided that I was really born to do other things. I got a very, very fortunate opportunity to join Procter Gamble and spent the next 10 years working with Procter Gamble, learning more about sales and marketing, and got promoted a few times. We moved, I think, 3 or 4 times during every one of those promotions, and just started learning a lot about the techniques that are involved in sales, marketing, and creating opportunities.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, when you talk about sales techniques, you talk about marketing and stuff like that. How does that apply in a company like that?
Yeah, during the Procter & Gamble days, we were all segregated into divisions. So I was in the paper division. Okay. In the paper division, I was selling and marketing basically toilet paper, paper towels, feminine hygiene, and tissues and diapers.
So you actually have to go out to the retailers and sell that?
That's how it all starts. I started my career working with grocery stores and visiting grocery stores, working with, the general managers of the stores, selling displays, creating the displays of product that they had featured. Okay. And then from there, getting promoted to the national accounts team and started calling on larger retailers, in those days like Toys R Us and a couple of other major retailers that were handling disposable diapers. Okay. So really very fascinating, and I don't know if you remember this, but when disposable diapers were first introduced, they didn't have tabs or anything on them, the replaceable tabs. You actually had to use pins in diapers, okay, even in disposable diapers.
Oh, interesting.
So I was there when we implemented the tabs, and I was also there when they implemented the thin diapers, because diapers generally were pretty thick and bulky. Yeah. Now, 90% of the time, you can't really tell if a child's wearing a diaper or not. Right. So learned a lot about the disposable diaper category, and quite honestly, learned a lot about feminine hygiene as well. And Jason, seriously, if you have a question about that at any time, I can certainly answer it, because I know more about feminine hygiene than most people out there now.
So setting up displays, stuff like that, how does that all work? I mean, what does that look like when you go into a retailer or something like that? I mean,
so in the grocery trade, the whole prime thing that I learned was that you have to have key space in the retail store. Right. People walk around, they shop around, and the tendency is just to pick things off of what they used to call end caps and displays. Okay, so the idea was to get primary space in every store, at front or some type of key location, that forced people to purchase the product without really thinking about it. Right. So in the disposable diaper business, like for example, calling on Toys R Us, when they were a major retailer, I learned that it was very fascinating that we were driving people to the back of the store by having diapers and all those accessories at the back of the store. Okay. So naturally, if you're shopping for disposable diapers in those days, you would actually buy product there. I personally had to wait in line when my kids were younger to buy disposable diapers at Toys R Us, because they were cheaper than anywhere else that I could buy them. Yeah. Okay. But the tendency was to bring everybody into the store because you had to buy wipes. Yeah. You had to go out and buy food. So all those things were readily available. So whereas they were maybe breaking even on selling, a package of diapers, they were making a ton of profit on all the other accessories that you were buying.
Yeah. So the margins, we've talked about this before, but like the margins in grocery stores and retails is very thin, isn't it?
Thin. Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, most grocery stores or grocery chains, they're probably netting between 3 and 4% max when everything is said and done.
Wow.
So but think of the volume,
business.
Right?
Yeah.
HEB, for example, with all their stores, the average store is doing a tremendous amount of volume.
Yeah.
I shop there all the time. You shop there all the time. You know that when you go in there, some days it can be really a very nice experience to go through there. Yeah. Some days it's a circus to go shopping. But at the end of the day,
Yeah, I avoid it at all costs.
There you go. Good for you.
I always like the grocery delivery or the curbside stuff myself. So
yeah. I've never done that, to be honest with you.
Mainly because I don't know my way around.
Yeah.
Because I'll get into a grocery store and I look like a ping pong ball going through a grocery store. I'm on this side and then on that side and then back over on this side, and that kind of stuff.
It's very interesting because I've done the shopping in our family for the past 35 years. Mm-hmm. My wife hates to shop, so every Sunday I'm shopping. And because it was ingrained in my DNA by Procter Gamble for all these years that I was there, I am naturally drawn to the paper products aisle.
Right.
And I will go in there and I will still check out competition.
Yeah.
I will check out to see where the placement is, because I learned those things about key placement, eye level, center of the shelf, because, people, even today, I mean, how many people actually go out there and take the time to shop a section?
Right.
They know what they're going to buy. They pick it up. Nobody's reading packages as much as they used to.
Yeah.
So it's an experience.
I also worked for a sticker company.
Yeah, I worked for I worked for a sticker company for a while as well.
Like stickers, like you peel off and stick on stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that really took me to a different opportunity, which brought me to Texas. We were in the decorative wall decor company. Okay, in business rather.
Was this wallpaper or what was it?
It wasn't wallpaper. It was simple peel and stick material. So just to give you, I'm going to try and create this visually for you. You used to get a big piece of Mylar. Uh-huh. And let's say there was a character of Mickey Mouse on there. You physically had to go through and cut it out, peel it off, and put it on the wall.
Right.
The tendency was if you put it on a wall similar to what's behind us, when you wanted to remove that, it would take either the paint or some of the plaster off.
Right. Okay.
So joining this company that was located here in Texas, moving to Texas again, we had a company that this gentleman and I joined. He was the president. I was vice president of sales and marketing. And we found a different technology that created, taking those images, creating them on a piece of vinyl, a clear vinyl, as opposed to Mylar.
Yeah.
So we were able to do a couple of things that really increased this business. We took it from being you sitting there and physically cutting out these things to where we were able to die cut it so that you just peeled it off, put it on the wall, and oh, by the way, when you wanted to take it off, you could take it off without damaging.
Right.
So the whole key to that program was kids change their taste very often.
Right.
Okay. In the very beginning of the cycle, like my wife would pick out, we're going to do a Winnie the Pooh room.
Right.
Okay.
I had Star Wars when I was a kid.
There you go. So
Star Wars wallpaper, Star Wars bedspread,
and how long
everything.
Did that last?
Yeah, probably till I was about 10 or 11.
So the room had to change.
Right.
Okay, so the bedding changes, the walls change, everything changes. This was a very quick, easy way to change decor in that room.
Okay.
So no matter what the character was, we had the character.
Yeah.
And we built this business up to a very, very sustainable amount of money. And we just talked about grocery stores delivering their profit level at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we were delivering almost 20%.
Wow.
to the bottom line. It was an incredible business.
Now, I recall that business is no more though. What happened?
Correct. Yeah, it's very limited right now. We had, at one point, we were vendor of the year at Target, which was an amazing award to get.
Yeah.
Because we weren't doing billions of dollars worth of business, but the business we were doing, we had all the factors lined up. We delivered on time. We delivered complete. We reduced out of stocks at retail.
Right.
All the things that drive sales.
Okay. So like I just said, it's my understanding that they're not in existence really anymore.
Correct.
What happened? What was that process? What do you think they missed ultimately?
I think it was a really important, I think the most important thing that happened in that business, to be honest with you, was building relationships, talking to customers, developing things that they wanted developed, and then creating it and making it happen. Okay. Right. And I think what happened to that business was there was a lost vision, because that vision of connecting with people, developing product for people, went away. And so I think the company that bought this company decided that they were going to dictate to the customer what they wanted, and that's not the way to drive business.
So when we talk about the vision of a company and stuff like that, what do you think sets a company like Procter Gamble apart from, this company that we're talking about?
I think that every good company out there does one important thing. They talk to their customers and they listen and they develop accordingly. Every company I've ever worked for since, that's exactly what I tried to do in order to build business.
Yeah.
Okay. You and I have talked about my last opportunity. I worked for a company out of Florence, Alabama, that was a fireworks company, a major fireworks company. And they had a division of general merchandise, plus they owned a whole bunch of other companies. My job was to develop that business, the general merchandise business. And I did that through connections that I previously had, went in and started developing products for them that they wanted, that they needed, that they had input into.
Yeah. So would you say that in order for companies really to have sustainability and have a longer term outlook, that defining values and vision and adhering to those are some of the most important things to do?
100%. It's the only way to drive business. That's what I teach today.
Yeah, and it's somewhat remedial, but a lot of people don't do it. I see a lot of people that get involved in starting a business, or they're an entrepreneur of sorts, and you sit down with them and they don't have any clearly written out goals. They don't have any vision. They don't have any values defined or anything like that. And, one of the things that I talk to people about a lot is that, you don't wait till you get to a point to do certain things. You start doing those things now, right? So, in the industry that I'm in, I hear financial advisors a lot say, well, when I get to this production level, I'll do these activities. And my answer is always no. You do those activities now, and the production will follow, and the clients will follow and stuff like that. But especially in my industry, communication is most important, right? And we see that time and time again. I would say the majority of clients that come to us are not because they were with somebody who didn't know what they were doing before. It's just they didn't have any communication with them. Right. And so we try to make communication the forefront of everything that we do,
And I think people have a tendency to get away from that today because of things, it's email, it's a voicemail. And you and I have talked, you and I have breakfast at least once a month.
Right.
I'd love to do it more than that because I never get tired of talking to you.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, I think people have lost that connection with other people in order to, first of all, understand. You and I took a couple of months to really get to know each other.
Right.
Okay. But there was never an agenda. We never sat down and go, okay, these are the things I have to cover.
Right.
I always was very prepared when I walked into meetings with an agenda, but there were many times I walked into every meeting that I went to, I would walk in with the understanding that I wanted to learn one more thing that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can do that is by talking to people.
Exactly.
And communicating.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. So, my son, who's a senior in high school, a friend of mine, another business associate of mine, had invited him to play golf, and he actually overslept. And, I had sent him a message throughout the day. I said, how's golf going? And he said, oh, I didn't make it, I overslept. I said, did you reach out to John? And he said, well, I sent him a text. And I said, no, that's not acceptable. I said, you're connected up to somebody that's in my world, right? And so you need to pick up the phone and call them, apologize, and that kind of thing. I think in the world of technology, we've lost the verbal skills in a lot of ways, and we see that across the board. And there's this, while text is easy, it's easy to communicate. Hey, I want to get this or get that done, or hey, let's meet at this time. That's great. The problem becomes when you're trying to communicate larger ideals, or you need to communicate, hey, I'm sorry I messed this up, or something like that. It just leaves too much room for interpretation, in my opinion.
Well, of course. But I also really think that it is so vitally important to have a connection.
I agree.
And you don't get that connection through technology.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yes, you can communicate certain things, but face-to-face is always good. I have a small consulting business now.
Right.
And I also do a little bit of sales and marketing with products, from different industries. And the first thing that a lot of companies, when they come to me and they say, hey, we'd like you to represent whatever the program is, the first thing I say is send me some samples.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said, well, I can share with you a PDF.
Right.
On the whole program. And I said, no, I really want samples because I have to feel and touch product.
Yeah.
In order to really understand what it's all about. Okay. Yeah. And if I touch it and I feel it and I like it, it's so much easier for me to get passionate about what I'm doing.
Right.
Because to your point, passion is always the key.
Yeah.
And I've never met with buyers that said to me, man, you're really not passionate about that.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be sitting in front of a buyer or a merchandiser without being passionate about the product that I'm talking about.
Right.
Which has led to a lot of success.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you also teach the entrepreneur class at the high school right now.
Yes.
So,
and you've been involved.
I have been. That's always fun.
Yeah.
So one of the projects that Stephen has the high schoolers do every year is they team up and they have to come up with a business idea. And then at the end of the year, we set up a Shark Tank kind of presentation of it all. And so they have to get up and pitch their product and stuff like that. There's judges that judge them and ask questions of them and that kind of thing. And then at the end, the winner is actually awarded some money to start their business.
From the Education Foundation.
Yeah. And so 2 years ago, one of the teams that did it actually won a little bit of money, and they're actually going to product. You want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. So the whole process that we go through with the students that come and enroll in it, first of all, it's not a core subject.
Right.
Okay. So it's an elective. So they have to basically want to be there.
Right.
Unless the counselors throw them in there for some reason. But more or less, they want to be there. So we take them through all the stages of not just coming up with an idea, but going through the process of validating it, creating a marketing plan, creating a financial plan for it. We try to have them find a manufacturer,
right?
So that they can actually have a conference call and understand, that you have to build a relationship with your manufacturer to get the things that you need to have done. And then we take them, as you said, to the Shark Tank, where you've not only been a mentor in the class, we invite, community people to come in and mentor one of the groups, but you've also been a judge 1 year as well,
right,
in the Shark Tank. But it's kind of rewarding to see how this all goes full cycle. And one of the teams that developed a pre-workout supplement, they are now going into production. My understanding is that they're ordering 144 units of this product. And my understanding is they've already pre-sold 100 of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an exciting time to see it go full cycle where they've created an LLC. They have an attorney that they've been working with.
Right.
And they're developing these relationships where they're able to go out, place product, watch if it grows, learn from the experience, reevaluate it to see if they want to continue with that particular formula or whether or not they have to change it.
Yeah, it's amazing to me in being a part of that with you is the kids that really take it serious and really focus on it. Most of the time you can tell who they are because they come with a kind of a sample product, like you said. So, like the Lone Star Supplements guys, they had the 3 different flavors that you could try. Of course, I was a little nervous trying them because I was afraid I'd be all amped up, wouldn't be able to sleep that night. But it was really a neat thing that they did. They actually formulated this pre-workout based on research that they did on the human body and vitamins and supplements and stuff. The amount of work that they put into it was really unbelievable.
And it's all during the course of a school year. And taking them to that Shark Tank. For me, it's so rewarding to see how it culminates all together, and how they are really engrossed in exactly what they're presenting.
Right.
Like that, you could tell. We talk about having passion.
Right.
Go for your business, to have passion for a product. All of these students last year that presented, and we had 13 teams that presented last year. I can't think of one that wasn't passionate about what they were doing.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think that's the key to a lot of the success that we're having.
Yeah, I think it's such an amazing program, in that it helps younger people see the possibilities. I think in today's world, a lot of young people get wrapped up in, I want to be an influencer, I want to be this, or, it's all very social media driven. When they're actually building a product, it's a really interesting thing to watch them go through.
Well, I think you've also seen how it's evolved quite a bit, because the first year that I was doing it, everybody was developing an app.
Yeah.
Okay. This year we had this previous year, we had more products than we did have apps.
Right.
Because as we all know, products are really selling. Apps are basically a dime a dozen. Everybody has an app.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what they're going to come up with this year. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But I just think, I think the most rewarding part about me being able to facilitate their learning as the instructor, I follow the curriculum to a point, but I also share a lot of real world experience that I've had.
Right.
And it's so funny, because at some point they'll say to me, is there something you haven't experienced? And the answer is, my goal is to always learn something new.
Right.
And I learned something new from you. I'm hoping you're learning something new from me.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, if you're not learning, you're pretty much dying at that point in time.
100%.
And staying hungry for knowledge and that kind of thing. I think it just makes you better at all things. So,
I couldn't agree more.
We had a group of interns here over the summer. In fact, they were on one of these podcasts. So we built vision boards together, and they shared them on the podcast and that kind of stuff. And I've done that throughout my life as a way to kind of be able to see the things that I'd like to accomplish, and it was one of the first things that I have them do, going back to the communication aspect of things, is read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because while it's such an old book, I think it was written in the 30s,
yes,
1930s. The principles of communication haven't changed, and yet it's so much of a lost art in the day of like keyboard warriors and people who want to sit behind their keyboard and type out their belief systems and why everybody else is wrong and all this other stuff. We spend so much time arguing, whether it's over politics or whatever it is, that we don't make a lot of headway anymore. And going back to what you said earlier, I think communication is arguably the most important aspect of not only interpersonal skills, but also of starting a business. Being able to communicate with people what your vision is, what your goals are, and being passionate about it. People want to be a part of something, and I think the more you can do that, the more it just helps drive everything.
And it translates into any business.
Right.
Okay. I don't care if you're selling hamburgers or you're a financial advisor.
Right.
The one thing, honestly, if I were to take this full cycle, the one thing that attracted me to wanting to meet you and then wanting to be a friend of yours is the fact that every time that we do talk, I walk away like, okay, I just learned something new, number one. But more importantly, I haven't met too many people that are passionate about, life, consistency, communication more than you are. And I'm not just saying that because we're sitting here doing this podcast. That's why I love to meet with you. Yeah. Because I walk away and I'm like energized going, oh my gosh.
That's the way I feel about when I meet with you too. So.
It's so funny though that connection between us and we've done some fun things together, getting up in the air and doing all that kind of stuff. But I mean, right. We've done some fun things, but I've always learned something along the way. But whether or not you're talking about financials or you're talking about my class or you're flying, you're deeply passionate about what you're doing. Yeah. And I've got to be honest with you, I admire that, and it makes me to want to be better every time I'm with you. Yeah. So.
Well, I learned quite a bit when I'm with you as well, about the different businesses that you've been a part of, what's made them work, what's not been successful, and, I think that, again, in today's world, one of the things that most people miss whenever it comes to, I deal a lot in wealth, and there's an aspect to wealth communication, wealth accumulation that most people miss, and that is your network. As your network grows, right, your opportunities grow. And as your opportunities grow, by default, generally, the cash or the income grows as well, And so one of the things I think that a lot of people miss is, statistically speaking, most people are the average of their 5 closest friends. So if I know who you are and a couple things about you, I have a pretty good idea of what your 5 closest friends are. But a lot of people aren't willing to take themselves out of their comfort zone and get around the people that have built successful businesses, have achieved success in their life, and I think the more you're able to take yourself out of your comfort zone, I had a mentor that pushed me in that very early on in my career. And, I stepped outside my comfort zone and I surrounded myself with people who had actually been successful and had the money. And, even in the business that I have now, I always, joke with my business partner, I'm not ashamed to steal ideas left and right. You can take ideas from people and look at them, learn from them, sit down with them, communicate with them. And the more you learn about them, you can take those ideas and maybe you tweak them a little bit to apply them to your life or apply them to your business. And it just helps you become better. And so, again, I think that the whole network and communication aspect of everything is probably the single most important driver to success. You can have all the followers in the world. You can have all the Facebook friends in the world. I think, I look at my Facebook, it's hilarious. I think I've got, and the young people say that Facebook's for the old people now, right? So, I guess we're old. But anyway, I look at my Facebook page and it's got, I've got thousands of friends on there. I don't know them. Yeah. Usually there's somebody that I had a connection with, a long time ago and that kind of stuff. The real connections that I have, thousands of connections that I have from the business world, though, those have been indispensable. Yeah.
Well, I have to agree with you because networking is, and we talk about this in class too, the more people you put yourself in front of, right, the better your network grows. However, I mean, for me personally, I do this thing I call collect people. Uh-huh. Okay. I say, I'm going to collect this person. But honestly, Jason, I don't collect everybody.
Right.
I collect those people that I want to connect with, number one. More importantly, that I want to network with.
Yeah.
Because if I'm putting you if I'm collecting you,
Right.
it's to help to make me better.
Right.
That's why I collect only certain people.
So that brings up a really good point, and another concept that I've applied in my life. And I think it was Zig Ziglar who originally said it. If you help enough other people become successful, you in turn become successful.
It is.
And in today's world, we often define success by financial success, and there's so much more involved than just that. But early on in my world, even, most of my meetings were never about me, managing somebody's money or helping them with their finances or anything like that. It was me connecting them with somebody that could help them do something that they wanted to do. When I meet with somebody, I always want to know what their goals are, what they're passionate about. And, it's not an interview. I don't sit down and go, well, what are your goals? And tell me what you're passionate about, that kind of thing. It's just conversation. You learn that through conversation because people talk about what they're passionate about, what they're excited about. That's what people generally talk about. And so as you learn that, then you can, you start going in your head and you go, oh, I could connect them with this person because this person does that activity, I use this example. Like I had a client that was a general contractor, and I had another good friend of mine that, I knew was working on a large commercial construction project, and I set them down at lunch together and said, hey, I think you two should meet each other. And I just let them visit for a while. And I just was sitting there in the background, and the result was they ended up doing business together, and that sprung off into a whole bunch more deals. Yeah. And, I did it with the idea that I wanted to help them. It wasn't, what can I get out of this? And the one friend that was doing the commercial, contract, is not a client of mine, doesn't do business with me and that kind of stuff. But because of that whole process, by default, I've had business come in from other areas, somebody going, oh, I heard that you helped, Joe get this contract and stuff like that. I'd like to meet with you, kind of thing. And so I think, in a world that we live in that often is very self-serving, I think doing things that are just good for other people and helping other people gives you so much more in the end. I mean, you do that right now. I mean, you teach at the high school, and then also too, you're a part of tell me about this clinic that you're part of.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I think giving back isn't always monetary.
Right.
Okay. And so when I lived in East Texas, which is 3 hours away from where I used to live, a group of people came and they said, hey, we had this idea that we want to open up this medical clinic, and we'd really like to start serving the unserved population when it comes to medical needs, family medical care. And the issue is that not everybody can afford it. They may not even have insurance.
Right.
Or they have insurance and they're being turned down because of age. Okay. So we developed this clinic out there, and I don't know why this happened, but they asked me to chair the board. We put together a board of people that are community members, mm-hmm. representing different walks of life, and we put together this board of these people that have become so close. It's amazing to watch how this all happens, and so now we have 3 clinics that are open. We've opened up our 3rd clinic.
Right.
And now our population we've served so far is about 43,000 people.
That's amazing.
And we've grown, but just by giving back and offering service. People ask me all the time, oh, you must have a really big medical background. I've never been a doctor, and I've never played one on TV.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I have really no medical background, but more importantly, I knew how to lead people to deliver what needed to be done. Since then, talking about networking, talking about building connections, we have connections to the U.S. Congress. Mm-hmm. We now have connections into the state here in Texas.
Right.
We have connections with UT Health that helps to fund us when we need it. All these things are brought together because of networking with people and bringing them to understand exactly what we're trying to do, and that's to serve the underserved population.
Right.
So I go there. I'm a patient.
Yeah.
And I drive 3 hours every month. I drive 3 hours up, have an hour and a half board meeting, drive 3 hours back.
Yeah.
So it's all about creating these wonderful connections with people, bringing them. Those are people also that I collected.
Right.
So that they're in what I like to call the circle, whatever that is. But it's not just building those networking, it's giving back to the community. Same thing we do, in the Chamber of Commerce. Right. It's the same thing here locally. That I'm involved in the Chamber of Commerce because all I want to do is to give back.
Right.
And that's my way of giving back. And I'm not there to get paid. We don't get paid anything. I don't get paid for leading the board over in East Texas as well.
Yeah.
But these are things just that I want to do to give back, to tell people, hey, here we are. This is what we're doing. We're going to help you to become better people.
Right.
Because better people become better citizens.
Exactly.
Better citizens become really productive. And they all have to be healthy in order to do that.
Yeah. And that clinic, it started just with one, and now it's grown out to three.
Three, yeah.
And how long has it been around now?
This would be our 6th year.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. And like I said, 43,000 patients that we've served that in the past have not been served before. I could bring a ton of examples to you of these people that we've served. We've saved lives.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that probably wouldn't be here today that are now very, very productive people.
Right.
Now, I have insurance. They take my insurance. We love people that have insurance.
Yeah.
Our payer mix is definitely different, but we service, people, Medicaid patients that are usually turned down at many places because doctors are not getting reimbursements at a high rate.
Right.
So they're very careful of how many people they take in.
Right.
So we don't turn anybody down. We'd even take you, Jason, if you want to come. But we don't turn anybody down for any reason.
Yeah.
Whether you can pay or not.
That's awesome.
They walk in the door. I walk in the clinic. Every time I walk in, I have a badge and all that kind of stuff, but I never wear it when I walk in. I walk in the front door just to see how people are greeted when they walk in.
Yeah.
By now they know me, but
I've been there, and every single time that I've walked into one of the clinics with you, I mean, people that are there are happy. They understand what the mission is, and again, I think that comes down to the communication of what the mission and the values of that whole, institution is really.
Jason, every business that I've been involved in, Procter was a different example, but even the smaller businesses, the first things that I did when I joined a business, tell me about the mission. And if you don't have a mission, we're going to create a mission.
Right.
Because employees have to embrace it, they have to know it, and they have to love it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they can't deliver.
Well, it's your roadmap.
Yeah. Drives in the right direction.
Because now you know what your goals are.
Exactly.
And a lot of people go through life, whether personally or in business, and they don't have any clearly defined goals. They don't know what they're hoping to accomplish. They're just kind of arbitrarily out there traveling. I use an analogy in my world when I talk about people's finances. I'm like, look, the goals are the most important aspect. Otherwise, you're going on a vacation.
Where you going?
You're just turning. And I always say, you either end up in downtown Detroit or you end up in Palm Springs. Yeah. I don't know too many people want to go to vacation in downtown Detroit. But I know a lot of people like Palm Springs.
Right.
And so, but having the goal allows you to know the direction that you need to be moving, and it's your roadmap, and that's driven by the mission. It really is.
It's interesting because you also bring up a really important part of that whole dynamic of evolving, it's through networking, making connections, all those things. The most important thing, and I tell people that I talk to all the time, and sometimes they're in distress or they have something that's going on in their life, And I've been very fortunate. I still talk to people that basically I worked with at Procter Gamble that call me,
right?
And they want to talk about things. And I use this line all the time. And I know you're a firm believer in it, although you may not use this line. But you cannot be good to others unless you're good to yourself.
That's so true.
And you've got to take care of you before you can take care of anybody else.
That's true.
And I try to live that all the time.
Yeah.
I said, I don't walk into the classroom because I have to walk in there. I walk in there because I want to.
Right.
And I take the time to make myself feel good about it. And I wake up every day wanting to go there.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't wake up in the morning and say to myself, oh my God, I have to go to school today.
Yeah.
I want to go to school today. It's the same thing with your business, right? You wake up every day, you want to help somebody.
Right.
I believe that's your goal. I could be wrong.
Right.
But that's your goal. I want to help this person to be maybe financially sound, more than they are today. But more importantly, I want them to feel comfortable.
Right.
So they can go out and do other things.
Yeah.
And, I think that's like vitally important to success.
So, let's talk about that for a second in terms of, taking care of yourself. Now, I think you've shared with me, like you start your day, you get up generally early, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I'm usually in the gym early.
Okay. So you're at the gym every day?
More or less.
Okay.
And so the reason that I go into the gym is not to talk to anybody. Yeah. I go into the gym to talk to myself and to get myself ready for the day. Right. I'm going to tell you, like right now already, it is 10:35 according to my watch. Uh-huh. I've got right now almost 16,000 steps.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my goal is to get done my workout so that I can really function. My head is clear when I walk into that classroom.
Yeah.
My head is clear when I do the things that I really want to do.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. And my focus level personally is much better after I work out.
I think one of the most important things is for people to come up with a routine. I don't work out in the mornings. I had to do that when I was in the military.
Yeah.
And so I don't like doing that early in the morning anymore. I do that later in the afternoon. But, my morning routine is I get up, I have some coffee. I sit with no phone, no TV on, and just kind of start thinking about my day, start preparing for my day. I think that there's so many people that just roll out of bed, hurry and get ready, get in the car to go to work, and they haven't taken any time to prepare for their day, prepare for what they have to face that day, to think about things, to think about how they're going to say things, how they need to communicate things. And I think, it's just like an athlete. Athletes spend the majority of their time practicing their craft.
Why do most athletes wear headphones?
So they're not distracted, probably.
They're getting themselves into the right mindset in order to go deliver what they have to deliver.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to be in the right mindset every day to deliver what we can deliver. Otherwise, we're not delivering anything.
Yep. Exactly right.
Nothing that's memorable.
Exactly right.
I want to leave each one of those students with a memory.
Tony Robbins says it's putting yourself in peak state.
That's the key.
And I have a process that I go through to do that. Some of it's standing in front of the mirror and beating my chest and taking changing my physiology to start pushing my psychology, and it's something I learned from Tony.
You bring up the mirror because this is something that I'd like to share with you. I don't know if I've told you this, but so I used to call them Walmart a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, I led a team down there for a year and a half of 4 people.
And that's a tough retailer to get into.
And I met Sam Walton a couple of times during my P&G years.
Yeah.
But when I used to prepare for a meeting, I was fully prepared when I walked in the door, but I would always go into the bathroom ahead of my meeting, 10 minutes ahead of my meeting. And I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd tell myself, there's nobody that can do this better than you can.
Yeah.
Nobody. Okay. You're the expert. The buyer's going to appreciate that. And you're going to deliver what needs to be delivered.
That's awesome.
Every time I would stand in front of that mirror in there,
yeah,
people would look at me and go, what are you talking to yourself? But, but it was all good. I mean, for me, that was my way of getting mentally prepared to go into, I don't know if you know the process there, but you meet in a meeting room.
Right.
There's maybe 30 of them, and I can't remember how many there are. And you have a little cubicle, and your buyer walks in, and you have to present, and you have to be on. And that was my way of getting ready to be in front of the buyers.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's a big deal because they usually have a lot of vendors there all at once, gosh, right? Yeah. And it's
you could tell the rookies when you're sitting.
Yeah, it's kind of the Shark Tank, on steroids. Yeah. Yes. So exactly. Well, Stephen, I appreciate you coming out today, visiting with us. We've covered a lot of different stuff here. So if I were to sum it up, I would say, look, communication obviously is one of the most important things, having goals, having missions, but also spending time to prepare yourself for the day ahead, taking time to create a routine and sticking with that and doing it where you can get your mindset right. A lot of times we, roll over in the morning, we pick up our phones and we read the news, and that's never a good thing to start your day with, because the news is rarely a positive influence on us. So I think, again, going back to some of the previous episodes that I've talked about is how you prepare your mind and the things that you're programming with your mind, whether it's you're standing in front of the mirror talking about, how you want to present yourself to the world, or you're practicing how you're going to present something to a potential client or a buyer or something like that. Again, practicing these things on a regular basis just makes you that much better, and Stephen's had some real world experiences through big companies, through smaller companies, and, helping clinics get off the ground, that was just an idea that two doctors came up with and came to him with the idea, and he helped them pull that off. I think in order to be effective like he has been, you have to be able to do those activities, and you have to be good at all of them. So until next time, as I've always said, buck the status quo in order to grow, and we'll talk to you soon.